Welcome back to Painting Your Umbrey. This is Tyrantsonthefield, and I am going to be painting today with some P3 Irregular Paint set. I'm using the Copper Penny. And this is described as a soft medium orange gold. I want to use muted colors here. Sort of the intent with this model is this is Razor, which is normally part of the SKS6. He is part of Old Umbrey as well. He works for the cadre that goes between both Winter Corps and Old Umbrey in the modern Khador. And what I'm going for with this particular paint scheme is that the SKS6 have started to adapt to their assignment, which is to work with Old Umbrey, report back on them, and to defeat the Orgoth while utilizing them as a resource and kind of understanding what's going on in Umbrey. And so sort of the narrative that I'm trying to do with this paint scheme is that SKS6 has sort of been absorbed into Old Umbrey. They're learning how to fight like them. Their supplies are starting to run low. Maintenance has started to run low, and they're really working to be as stealthful as possible, which means we're going for a more rusted look, a more organic look. We've done some conversion work here to make it look a little more Umbreyized, so that it looks like it belongs in the woods and is sort of an ethereal creature to fight alongside these fantastic shapeshifters. So we're going for sort of a rusted, neglected look. We're going to utilize this coloration here first on the brass bits, and then we're going to tone this down with a little bit of green. So again, this is the bullet casing. Try to get that to focus in. And again, just painting very lightly in a few spots. This flows very nicely. I'm utilizing a wet palette. You don't have to use a wet palette. I like to use one from time to time. But this flows very nicely off of the brush. If you haven't had a chance to try the new P3 paints, I highly recommend them. They have been really fun to start to work with, and I like a lot of what they do, and you can kind of see it here where we can brighten these up, and then you'll see as part of this process we're going to wash them down in another step. The first thing is just getting some of this paint applied to the model itself. And we're just using very little bit. You don't need much. And I just want to get these parts that I would be a little more lustrous generally. I want to kind of hint that these were more metallic at one point, but we don't want too much shiny on this model. And again, we're going to dull it down. But we want to pick out some of these areas that are sort of our raised metallic bits with this coloration, and really start to tell the story of Razor joining the Umbrey. Because your models can tell a story, and your paint jobs help to illustrate what that story is and what that story means, even if that story is just in your head. So that's what we're focusing on here. I just want to indicate these little gleams of what this used to be, and pulls out the edges a little bit on this. We're using a little bit of an overbrush technique here. I'm sorry, I'm not keeping this in perfect frame or focus, but we're working on it. It's a learning experience for me as well in terms of videoing my process. how I go about this. So as you can see, we're just working the edges with this, and again, we're going to tone it down a little bit in a wash step. And a wash is a specific type of paint concentration that is mostly water or mostly medium, depending on what you're using, with some paint in it. Decent concentration of pigment, but very watery, designed to sort of get into all the little nooks and crannies, but you can utilize them to tone colors up and down. And again, we have a nice medium here, but even the medium I want to bring down just a little bit and sort of give it a more rusted look. Because again, we're trying to tell the story with this model of it being a bit more used. Now we're going to go ahead and add in some galvanized steel as our next color from P3. And again, this is in the Irregular Paint set, in the Irregular Paint line, part of the brand new colors that they have done recently with the re-release of P3. And as somebody that's used P3 paints on and off for 15 years, very excited to see P3 back in the market. This formulation is as good as it used to be, if not better. Getting this onto my palette, and again, you don't need much. And I'm just working this into my brush, getting a point on my brush, getting a stray hair off of my brush. And we're going to go ahead and start to work on these little smokestacks with this galvanized steel. This is a very cool color, both literally and figuratively. Yeah, there we go, focus. So you can kind of see it there. Gives some nice blue hints. It's a blue style steel color, so a nice blue-gray. That over this metallic bit is very cool. Nice refreshing color. And don't worry if you get it on a part of the model you don't want it on. You can always paint over it and utilize it as some shadow or scum. We're just evening out the coat. We want to leave a little bit of that undercoloration. I wish this would focus. There we go. Focusing a little better now. You can start to see those grayed smokestacks on this piece. As we continue to build him out, we're going to use a little bit of this as a baseline liner inside of the shield. We'll build up to different color in there, but that's going to be a really nice base to indicate his sort of arcane power source. Give it again that more ethereal style look that we're going for on this particular piece. As again, we kind of want to make it look moody and lived in, like it's been in the woods for a while. It's gone a little native. And we're starting to get there. And again, in the video description, I will have all of the paints that I used to get it to this point. And we'll talk through the techniques a bit more as well. So essentially, this has been a pretty simple process to this point. We started with a blank plastic miniature. We went ahead and did a gray airbrush primer over that. We then did a xanthyl highlight with white airbrush primer. Then I hand painted with just a broad dry brush some Vallejo dark green over about 2/3 of the model, and then mainly focusing on the raised areas, and then on the recessed areas and areas I wanted to be a little cooler, I used Pro Acrylic dark blue. And that laid the foundation, and then over all of that I did about a 2 parts water to 1 part burnt orange from Pro Acryl. And use that to generate the sort of rusted effect over the model. And that's the base that we find ourselves painting on currently. Is from that. And there's a little bit of conversion work that I did with some green stuff, building out a cape, building some vines onto the shield and to the gun, and then I had a spare-ish stag head from my command starter, or my battle group, one of my battle group boxes. I have multiples of the battle group box, and went ahead and attached it to Razor just to Umbrey him up just a little bit more. Give him this kind of cool distraction piece. Make him feel a little more at home in the army. And we'll add sort of another little layer here on some of this, just towards the top, really, in some of these raised sides areas, where we want to have big pops of this gray. This galvanized steel is really like a light blue. I like this color a lot. I wish it was a little more metallic. I do have metallic medium, so I might do a little bit of the metallic medium with this, but we will see how it starts to feel as I continue the process here. And I'm a big painter by feel. So I go into a model and I will kind of have the model speak to me as I paint. So yeah, I got a little bit of the Bob Ross spirit animal in me, hence the voice right now. That, and I'm fighting through a head cold. I've been fighting a cold all week, so there's that. But very excited to be doing this paint video for you, and I hope you enjoy it. Really enjoying trying to get more of my art on camera, because normally I just paint. and then put some pictures up, and that's the end of it. And I think I would like to start doing some more painting content for everybody, because I really enjoy it, and being able to share this hobby and maybe give you an understanding that I think everybody can paint, and everybody can just learn some basic techniques and some basic brushstrokes and have a model that comes out looking really good at the end of a process. But you got to understand, there are going to be different points in this process. This model is not going to look great. Maybe this model looks amazing to you. To me, this model is very underdone, it's very undercooked, and we've got a long way to go. But we are at the start of making this look amazing. And that is what we are going to do. All right, so let me try some of this Illuminated Gold. This stuff looks super cool. And again, I'm working with the Irregular Paint set. That was part of the P3 Kickstarter, because I like offbeat stuff. This is kind of an offbeat project, and we're using it to kind of test out how some of these little items look and feel. So let me shake this one a bit more. Shaking my paint. Shaking my paint. Oh my gosh. Well, that exploded. That was fun. So yeah, I had that, that just happened. So that's a lot of paint all over my board, which is good. All over my palette. So we will deal with this in a few minutes. But let's try to get some of this on the canvas and see how we feel about it. Wow, I don't like that happened, and the way that it happened I really don't like. Okay. All right, let's do this as a bit of a highlight color. So we're going to go on our edge here and luster this up slightly. Okay. I don't hate it. I don't love it thus far. A little bit of a tonal difference there. Yeah, don't love that. But it does kind of give it a little bit of depth. And just all I'm doing here is just sort of working a little bit of the edge in a few spots where you think the light is hitting a little bit more. And you know how when light hits metallic surfaces, they kind of bounce and give you different luster points. That's all we're doing here. And so it makes the shield a little more visually interesting, draws your eye to it a little bit more than it would be just sort of base. And makes it all feel a bit more visually stimulating. I don't like that part specifically. All right. Well, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll be back with some more content soon.